Whether you are a programmer or not, I'm sure that you have seen many of those things in Twitter. They are basically mini codes that produce unexpected results. So let's look at few and try to understand them, starting off with this one. At first glance, it may seem like this statement is true. However, when I execute that, as you can see, we get false. And why is that? Well, because NaN stands for not a number, and we are comparing two separate things that are different from numbers. For example, if we try to parse integer and if we give something else instead, it will return NaN. It is something but not a number. So, when we check equality, we essentially check the two things that we don't know much about. We only know that they are not a number. So, as a result, it returns false. Then we got this line. What will be the output? If you have guessed that it will be a string, then you are right. Now let's see why. First, we got type of null, which is an object, and that type representation returned us a string. So the second type of statement literally returns the type of string which has the value of string. Next up, we have these guys. So when we execute it, what will be the outcome? Well, we get true and false. We tend to think questions like this from a mathematical standpoint, and it is not actually always true. However, when we think this question from the programming perspective, it is actually pretty simple. All we had to do is to look up the execution order of the code. So first we got 1 smaller than 2, which is true, and we know that true corresponds to 1. Then we got 1 smaller than 3, which is again true, so we end up with true. In the second case, we initially got true, however, then we got 1 smaller than 1, which is obviously false. Hence, the result is false. Since we are talking about numbers, let's look at this comparison. This is a nice one, and when we execute it, it returns false. And in this one, we can easily make the exact opposite mistake as the previous one, not thinking mathematically. To be honest, I fall for that one at first, and when I make brief research, I found great answer by Joel on Stack Overflow. So here's what happens. When we make the conversion from decimal to binary, the portion after the floating point repeats itself to the infinity, just like if we try to divide 1 to 3 in decimal. As a result, this makes having an exact 0.1 represented in binary impossible, so the result is false. And finally, we have a really nice example from Eric Ardvinson, and that is this one. So let me ask one more time, what would be the outcome when I execute this code? As you can see, we got a reference error. This error was occurred because of the TDZ, which stands for temporal dead zone. It is essentially a scope where the variable exists but unreachable, which is the exact case in this code. When the function was called, the b exists in the code, however, it is not processed by JavaScript engine yet. As a result, we got an error, which is actually one of the most used features of the TDZ, finding and debugging errors. If you want to learn more about TDZ, I also suggest you to look up the behavior of hoisting as well. In any case, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If that is the case, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to see more content like this. See you next time. Take care.